You thought you were entering a relationship, but you were actually walking into a carefully designed spiritual trap. Today, we are talking about a dark truth. What happens when someone reduces your most intimate vulnerability into absolute subjugation? God, or the universe, does not ignore this kind of deep soul violation. A heavy curse falls on those who do this. There is a very specific kind of darkness in a person who looks at your sacred trust and decides to use it to turn you into an object. You gave them your body, your heart, and your deepest intimacy. In return, they stripped away your autonomy, piece by piece, until you felt like you existed only for their gratification. You were not a partner. You were just a possession. It feels so isolating when you finally realize what was actually happening behind closed doors. You start to see that the intimacy was never about love or connection. It was always about power. They wanted to own you completely, to control your mind by dominating your physical self. And then you are left sitting there, wondering how someone could be so intensely cruel. But here is the secret knowledge you need to hear right now. They did not get away with it. When a narcissist crosses that ultimate line, when they turn another human being into an instrument for their own depraved ego, they trigger a massive spiritual consequence. You might not see it immediately, but a silent, inescapable curse has already been placed upon their life. I want you to take a deep breath and really hear this. You are not ruined. You are not broken beyond repair, even though I know it feels like your very soul was scraped hollow. The shame you are carrying does not belong to you. It never did. It belongs entirely to the empty, broken predator who had to enslave another human being just to feel like they had any power. Think about the mechanics of what they did to you. They slowly eroded your boundaries until saying no felt like a crime. They conditioned you to ignore your own comfort, your own desires, and your own safety. This is not just toxic behavior. This is a profound spiritual crime. To take a vibrant, living soul and systematically crush it into submission is unforgivable. And the universe sees everything. You may have wept in silence, thinking no one knew the depth of the humiliation you were enduring. But that pain was witnessed. The divine balance of the world keeps a meticulous record of those who exploit the innocent. The very moment they looked at you and saw a toy instead of a human, their fate was permanently sealed in darkness. They walk around wearing a mask of normalcy, convincing the world that they are charismatic and put together. But underneath that fragile disguise, they are rotting. The energy it takes to maintain that level of dominance and deception is exhausting. They are hollowed out from the inside. They are cursed to wander this earth completely incapable of experiencing real love. This is why you must understand that your escape was not an accident. Your realization, that sudden moment of clarity where you saw the monster behind the lover's eyes, was divine intervention. You were pulled out of the fire because you are meant for so much more than being a footstool for a parasite. Your survival is the ultimate proof that you are fiercely protected. As we go deeper into this, I want you to drop the guilt. Drop the feeling that you should have known better. You were dealing with a master manipulator who weaponized your own empathy against you. Let us break down exactly how their mind works, and more importantly, how the divine curse they brought upon themselves is slowly, inevitably tearing their entire life apart. To understand the curse, you have to understand the deep, pathetic emptiness that drives them. A narcissist does not experience intimacy the way normal human beings do. To them, physical closeness is not a bridge between two souls. It is a battlefield. It is an arena where they can assert total dominance. They need to reduce you to nothing so they can feel like a god. When they turned your most vulnerable moments into a one-sided transaction, they were feeding a bottomless black hole inside themselves. They do not have their own life force. They are entirely dependent on consuming yours. By controlling your body and your responses, they deluded themselves into believing they were powerful. But true power never requires subjugation. Imagine the psychological sickness required to look into the eyes of someone who loves you and only see an object to be used. They literally lack the internal software for mutual respect. They are cursed with a profound emotional blindness. They can mimic affection, they can fake passion, but they will never actually feel the warmth of genuine, unselfish human connection. You probably noticed how quickly their affection could turn into cold, punishing cruelty. If you hesitated, if you showed discomfort, or if you simply were not in the mood, they punished you. They made you feel like you were failing them. This is classic coercive control. They were meticulously training you, like a dog, to abandon your own needs to serve their demands. But this level of exploitation creates a terrifying internal reality for the narcissist. They know, deep down in their fractured psyche, that they are completely unlovable. They know that no one would ever stay with them if they saw the truth. So they trap you. They bind you through shame and physical subjugation because they are absolutely terrified of being abandoned. This is where the spiritual consequence begins to take root. By forcefully demanding everything from you, they have disconnected themselves from the natural flow of grace. The universe operates on reciprocity and balance. When a person becomes a pure parasite, taking without ever truly giving, they isolate their soul. They become spiritually dead while still breathing. They may have convinced you that you were the crazy one. They probably gaslit you into believing that their twisted demands were normal and that your boundaries were selfish. That is the darkest part of the psychological abuse. They do not just want to use your body. They want your mind to agree to the destruction. They want you to actively participate in your erasure. Yet, every time they forced your compliance, they were stacking the weight of their own karmic debt. You cannot steal another person's sacred autonomy without paying a massive price. It defies the very laws of existence. They thought they were getting away with the perfect crime, hidden behind bedroom doors. But the rot was already spreading through their foundation. What they do not realize is that their need for control is an unquenchable addiction. No matter how much they dominate you, it is never enough. The high wears off faster and faster. They are cursed to live in a perpetual state of starvation. They will always need more validation, more submission, more twisted proof of their own existence. It is a miserable way to live. And you were just the mirror they used to try and fix their shattered reflection. But it failed. It always fails. Because the moment you break free, the moment you reclaim your bodily and spiritual sovereignty, their entire illusion collapses. They are left alone with the horrifying reality of what they actually are. A fragile, empty shell of a human being. Cursed forever. The shift always happens quietly at first. It is that tiny, persistent whisper in the back of your mind telling you that something is horribly wrong. For months, maybe years, you suppressed it. You made excuses for their aggression. You normalized the utter lack of empathy in their touch. But then one day the fog begins to lift. You see the coldness in their eyes. You start to pull back. It might not be a physical escape right away. It starts as a subtle emotional withdrawal. You stop offering up your soul. You stop trying to fix their unfixable rage. And the narcissist senses this shift immediately. They can smell the loss of control, and it sends them into an absolute panic. Their carefully constructed fantasy is now under threat. Watch how they react when they realize you are no longer a willing participant in their game. The mask slips entirely. The person who claimed to love you suddenly looks at you with pure, unadulterated contempt. They will try to punish you, to shame you back into submission. They will use your deepest insecurities against you. This is the moment the curse activates fully. As you reclaim your power, their psychological structure begins to crack. They need you to be weak so they can feel strong. When you refuse to play the role of the subjugated victim, they are thrown into an agonizing void. The universe is stepping in, severing the energetic cord they used to drain you. The divine protection surrounding you suddenly becomes a fortress. They try to find a replacement. They always do. They desperately search for another source of supply to repeat the cycle. But the curse follows them. The new target will never quite fill the gap you left behind, because the universe has marked this abuser. Their chaotic, toxic energy begins to repel the very things they desire most. They start sabotaging themselves. It is deeply poetic justice. The person who demanded total control over your life slowly loses control over their own mind. Their paranoia increases. They become obsessed with the narrative, desperately trying to convince everyone that you were the problem. But their frantic behavior only exposes their instability. People start to see through the charming, fake exterior. You get to watch from a distance as their life begins to unravel. The career issues, the fractured friendships, the constant, low-level misery they can never seem to shake. It is not a dramatic lightning bolt from the sky. It is a slow, agonizing suffocation of their spirit. They are trapped in the prison of their own toxic personality, and there is no escape for them. This is what happens when someone violates the sacred trust of intimacy. They literally short-circuit their own destiny. Every time they treated you like an object to be consumed, they were laying a brick in the wall of their own tomb. They isolated themselves from the divine light. Now, they must sit in the suffocating darkness they created. It is absolutely terrifying. And you? You are rising. The very fact that you survived this kind of profound psychological and physical invasion means you possess an indestructible core. They tried to break your spirit, but they only succeeded in waking up a warrior. You are shedding the shame that never belonged to you. You are reclaiming every inch of your physical and spiritual territory right now. The turning point is not just about leaving them. It is about the profound realization that you have been chosen for liberation. God did not abandon you in that dark room. You were given the strength to endure, and now you are being given the clarity to walk away forever. Their curse is their inevitable destruction. Your blessing is your ultimate, undeniable freedom. Let us talk about the true nature of their collapse. It is not always obvious to the outside world. The narcissist might still post smiling photos or brag about their superficial successes. But do not be fooled by the illusion. Behind closed doors, their reality is a living nightmare. The spiritual rot has infected every corner of their mind. They are deeply, truly alone. Because they view human beings as appliances, they are entirely incapable of experiencing comfort. When they are stressed, when they are sick, when they face the inevitable tragedies of life, there is no one who genuinely loves them. They have destroyed every bridge. They are surrounded by superficial acquaintances and new victims who will eventually abandon them as well. The curse ensures that nothing will ever satisfy them. They could acquire all the wealth, all the status, and all the physical gratification in the world, and they will still feel hollow. That gnawing, desperate ache in their chest never goes away. It is the spiritual consequence of choosing domination over love. They drank salt water to quench their thirst, and they are dying. Their mind becomes their own worst enemy. As they age, the tactics they use to ensnare people stop working. Their charm fades. Their energy wanes. The manipulation becomes sloppy and obvious. The world begins to mirror their ugliness right back at them. The absolute terror of being seen for what they truly are haunts their sleepless nights. They live in constant fear. Remember how they tried to make you feel worthless? How they tried to convince you that you were lucky to have them? That was pure projection. They were desperately trying to offload their own inherent worthlessness onto you. But the universe does not allow that debt to be transferred. It bounces back to the sender. They must carry the full, crushing weight of their sins. Think about the legacy they are leaving behind. A trail of broken hearts, traumatized partners, and hollow interactions. There is no joy in their history, only destruction. When their time comes to leave this earth, there will be no genuine grief for them. Just a collective sigh of relief from those who survived them. That is the ultimate tragedy of the narcissistic path. By trying to turn you into a slave, they actually enslaved themselves. They became chained to their endless need for supply. They lost their free will to a raging psychological disorder. You have the ability to heal, to change, and to grow. They are completely paralyzed. They will be running the same pathetic, abusive scripts when they are old and completely forgotten. Do not waste a single drop of pity on them. Pity implies that they were a helpless victim of circumstance. They were not. They made conscious, calculated choices to exploit your vulnerability. They knew exactly what they were doing when they dismissed your pain. The divine curse they are experiencing is simply the universe honoring the choices they made. Justice is served. You are the living proof of their failure. Every time you smile genuinely, every time you set a healthy boundary, every time you experience real, safe intimacy, you defeat them. Your healing is the ultimate act of rebellion against their darkness. They wanted to permanently extinguish your light, but all they did was force you to discover how blindingly bright it truly is. The collapse of the narcissist is a closed loop. It does not require your involvement, your anger, or your revenge. The spiritual laws of consequence are handling it with absolute precision. Your only job now is to turn your back on the burning building and never look back. Let the curse consume them. You have a beautiful, unburdened life waiting for you on the other side. As we reach the end of this journey, I need you to completely wash yourself of their filth. The things they made you do, the compromises they forced you to make, the humiliation you endured, none of that defines your worth. You were a hostage in a psychological war zone. You did whatever you had to do to survive a predator. Survival is not shameful. It is deeply heroic. Your body is yours again. Your mind is yours again. Your soul has been returned to you, entirely intact. The narcissist tried to convince you that they permanently stained you, but that is just another pathetic lie. Light cannot be stained by darkness. You are walking out of this nightmare cleaner, stronger, and more fiercely protective of your sacred energy than ever. Forgiveness is not required here. You do not have to forgive a monster for trying to consume you. What you must do is forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for trusting a disguised demon. Forgive yourself for the times you stayed silent to keep the peace. You were operating on a pure heart, while they were operating on a malicious agenda. You are completely absolved now. The road to healing will have its difficult days. You might experience flashbacks. You might suddenly feel the ghost of their shame creeping up your spine. When that happens, I want you to ground yourself in this absolute truth. Their power over you is completely dead. It was an illusion. The curse has bound them, but the universe has entirely released you. Breathe it in. Look at how far you have already come. You are seeking answers. You are facing the darkest parts of your history with incredible bravery. You are doing the hard, holy work of rebuilding a shattered self. The narcissist could not even handle looking at their own flaws for 5 seconds. You are facing the abyss and walking right through it. That is the definition of power. The universe is incredibly gentle with survivors like you. As you move forward, you will start to attract people who understand the true meaning of respect. You will experience love that does not demand a pound of flesh. You will learn what it feels like to be touched with reverence, not entitlement. You will finally understand that intimacy is supposed to be a safe haven. Never again will you shrink yourself to fit into someone else's twisted fantasy. You have learned the hardest lesson a human being can learn. Your boundaries are now made of steel. You can spot the subtle signs of manipulation from a mile away. You are a highly attuned, spiritually protected force of nature. They meant it for your destruction, but it became your armor. The curse of the narcissist is their permanent exile from the warmth of human connection. They are doomed to wander the earth as starving ghosts. But your destiny is completely different. You are meant to thrive. You are meant to tell your story, to break generational cycles of abuse, and to stand as a beacon of hope for others who are still trapped in the dark. Rise up. So let them rot in the spiritual prison they built with their own 2 hands. You have nothing left to give them. No anger, no tears, no energy. Just total, devastating indifference. You are closing the book on their pathetic existence. You are stepping out of the shadows and walking into the brilliant light of your own extraordinary life. The nightmare is finally over. You survived the absolute worst of human nature, and you are still here, beautifully and stubbornly alive. Take back your crown, lock the door behind you, and never let them near your soul again. Their curse is exactly what they deserve. Your freedom is exactly what you have earned. You were never meant to be their prisoner. You were always meant to be your own savior.